New data on early voting this morning shows women are turning out in greater numbers than men. Latest reports show women account for 59% of early voters in North Carolina, 55% in Florida, where the turnout by party is equal so far. But according to the data analytics firm Target Smart, Democrats are outnumbering Republicans in 7 of 11 other key battleground states. Well, national civil rights leaders hit the road this weekend on a bus tour aimed to get out the vote. The 3-day Our Vote Matters tour launched yesterday in Cleveland, Ohio, led by several civil rights leaders, including Msnbc host and National Action Network president Reverend Al Sharpton. The tour is geared towards getting minorities, students, and other vulnerable populations to exercise their right to vote. Joining me is one of those leaders, Mark Morial. He is the president and CEO of the National Urban League and the former mayor of New Orleans. And Mark, you're obviously working your word right there because you've got the T-shirt on. So tell me, why do you need this bus tour?
It's very important, and good morning. We're in Ohio. I'm in Cleveland today. We're on our way to Akron and later to Canton and then back to Cleveland on Sunday to visit a number of churches. Here's what's important. In Ohio, early voting has begun. It began on October 12th and it runs all the way through November the 7th. And Ohio is one of those states that has added a voter ID requirement. We have to educate voters, and while that voter ID requirement, in my opinion, isn't necessary, in fact, it is the law. So we're encouraging people by bringing this message to them to vote early, make sure you're prepared to vote, and to encourage a strong turnout here in northeastern Ohio.
And what is the significance of the location, because you are focusing on northeastern Ohio?
This is a very important, if I would say, urban community in America, because you've got all of these communities: Cleveland, Akron, Youngstown, Canton, Massillon, Elyria, all bunched together here in northeastern Ohio. And I think the significance of it is that Ohio's always been one of the most important states in our national election. So we've concentrated on this state in the past. We're here, and we hope that this bus tour is going to continue after Sunday to other states. But we've got to encourage people that the stakes are high, that they've got to evaluate the candidates' positions on issues, but that they've got to vote. So we had a great day yesterday. We were in East Cleveland. We were at Cuyahoga County Community College. Today we'll begin with a prayer breakfast, go on to Akron, go on to Canton, really working to encourage voters. So early voting is important here, and that voter ID requirement requires people. Now, here in Ohio, there are a number of things that people can use. So myohiovote.com is a resource for people here in Ohio. And if they aren't with us here in Cleveland, aren't with us in Ohio, follow us at Nat Urban League on Twitter, and you can be part of the bus tour.
And Mark, you're talking about the voter ID being an issue. Can you tell us about the voting restrictions that have been set in motion in the 14 states since the last presidential election, and how that could actually change the race?
So those voter ID and voter restrictions and suppression measures that have been put into place are a direct result of the actions of the Supreme Court in the Shelby case. So we're saying to voters that in order to protect democracy and protect your right to vote, it's important who the next president is. We are going to work as hard as we can to make sure those restrictions are not a barrier to voting. However, those restrictions are unnecessary and were designed with the intentionality, we think, of suppressing the vote in urban communities and communities of color. But we're saying to people, do not be deterred. We have to get out and vote because our vote matters.
And Mark, you said you kicked the tour off yesterday and you're hitting highly populated areas. How has the response been so far?
You know, it was so enthusiastic yesterday in East Cleveland. We had a chance to visit a number of barbershops and beauty salons. We ran into a number of people who've already voted. Very few people said they were not going to vote. We ran into 1 or 2 people who were not registered. But generally, I think people were very, very excited to see us. And of course, it's a coalition with the National Urban League, the National Action Network, the National Coalition for Black Civic Participation, and a group called Show Your Power. So we're working together. We've got a whole lot of support on the ground here in Cleveland and northeastern Ohio. And the tour is very, very well received.
And tell us, you had mentioned that you're dealing with some churches possibly today. What else is ahead on the tour for you for the next 2 days?
Well, we're going to have a rally in Akron and a rally in Canton after we begin our prayer breakfast this morning. But in addition to that, we've just been stopping in neighborhoods, knocking on doors, canvassing at places where people may be. So we have a plan, and then we have a little improvisational jazz in this tour. So we'll be, I think, following the schedule, but also looking for opportunities to engage with more voters. And what we did yesterday in East Cleveland was just so exciting to get a sense that people are really paying attention to the issues. They understand the importance of this election, but we have to push people to take advantage of early voting. And I'd say to anyone who's listening, if there's early voting in your state, take advantage of it, because it reduces the stress and also the lines on Election Day.
Mark Muriel, we appreciate you being here, and thanks for your enthusiasm to get out the vote. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning.
And happening now in Iraq this morning, the